Hutch, no women are waiting outside in a parking lot going into sepsis.
They literally are. They literally are. That's happening all over the country.
You're being disingenuous with the reason that that's happening. The reason that that's happening has nothing to do with the law. What happened to these women in this case is negligence, pure and simple.
Well, maybe you need a career change. Maybe you should be a lawyer, because you seem to understand the law so much better than these doctors and their lawyers. If Donald Trump had not won in 2016 and Hillary Clinton had won instead, would this have happened? Hey pals, if you're watching this and you enjoy it, click like and comment. It really helps out with the algorithm. Thank you. And Felix, it looks like you're in here now.
So I want to talk about just a comparison one-to-one when it comes to something that Kamala Harris has been running on a lot, and that's abortion. Now, I would say that me personally, I'm not, in 2020, I guess I could have called myself a Democrat. I did support Joe Biden. But some of the things that Kamala Harris has been saying have had me in particular, and some of the people that I know that work in the healthcare industry, a little concerned. And what she's been saying is that women in the country cannot get access to the medical care that they need due to abortion bans. Is that something that everybody's heard? She went on the Oprah Winfrey show. She was talking about it. She referenced the young women in Georgia.
There's about a third. There's about one out of three women in the country live in a state where there's an effective abortion ban. Yeah.
Right. Now, what she's been saying is that these women, and the women that she's been using as an example, the reason that they died was because they did not have access to the healthcare they need. That's something that she's made widely known to a lot of people.
That's right.
Correct?
Correct.
Okay. In particular, these women, when you look at the cases, these women didn't die due to any sort of abortion policy. If you look at the reasons that they died, one, the one in Georgia in particular, she got her abortion care. She was prescribed the abortion pill. She took the pill. Now, when she was shedding the fetus stayed in her uterus, and she didn't shed it entirely, and it led to her going septic and getting an infection.
That's right.
And she died, right? What would have saved her is a DNC. That's the dilation curettage procedure that they give women to stem the bleeding and help with that kind of stuff, right?
Sure.
That is legal in every single state. In every state in the U.S. right now, if you need to go and get a DNC, you can. Why is Kamala Harris promoting it to young women all around the country that they can't? And if they try, then they'll die.
Well, one of the issues with the abortion bans in all these states is that it's such a radical transition from what was sort of ordinarily understood to be available to you at the time. So, for instance, there was a Supreme Court case. Can't recall the name of the case. Maybe it was US v. Idaho or something like that. And the Supreme Court justices, they opine on this problem in this case where in Idaho, they have this sort of radical abortion ban. I don't know if there's any, actually, I think there are some exceptions in Idaho, but obviously there's still a need for abortion in various cases. And this case, they spoke about some of the transition problems in Idaho where the lack of clarity of the abortion ban in terms of what exactly is allowed and not allowed meant that all of these women who are pregnant who may have needed something that could have fallen under the definition of sort of excluded care now that abortion's banned had to get helicoptered to other states to get the care that they needed. And of course, this isn't like a pro-healthcare policy, right? You're delaying the care that these women need by perhaps a crucial amount of time, which could result in permanent injury or...
I can agree with that point, but where I want to stick you, and all of you, I want to hold you accountable to this. What Kamala Harris is saying, as of now, is that if you want to get a DNC in some of the states in the U.S., you cannot. That is what she's been saying. That is what she's been promoting to the American people.
To clarify, in Georgia, it's a felony to perform a DNC outside of specific circumstances.
I will fact check you on that right back. It is a felony to perform a DNC in order to get an abortion. It is not a felony to perform a DNC once there is no fetus and there is no heartbeat.
So I think you're touching on the problem that is plaguing a lot, because as far as I understand, in every single state where there is an abortion ban, they do have exceptions for the life of the mother. The problem with these bills as they're written, these policies, is that it is written in a way that is so vague that doctors, they're reticent to perform these procedures lest they be liable for a felony. They don't get into specifics about like what it means to be a threat to the life of the mother. And so what they do is they wait until there is an immediate threat to the life of the mother. So for example,
I can agree with your
for example, for example, sepsis. So I don't know what fact check you're going with here, but it is a fact that with Georgia's law, that woman, had she been allowed to receive the care that she needed in that moment, she would have survived, likely.
Yes, she would have. That is true.
Right.
But it's possible that the physician performing the procedure would have been subject to prosecution as a consequence of doing that.
That is false.
No.
That is a false statement.
No, it's not a false statement. That's why they didn't do the goddamn procedure. Why did they not?
I can explain to you if you allow me.
Hang on, wait. Let me finish the question. Why did they hesitate to do the procedure if not for fear that they would be
very simple? Very simple. Hospital policy is outlined across all 50 states. I work in the healthcare industry. These doctors, these professionals that are using the way that the law is written are using it to justify their own negligence. What happened to these women in this case is negligence, pure and simple. Now, I can understand your assertion that because the law is written the way it is, that some physicians might not be willing to provide the care, and that might be delaying treatment. But that's not a reflection on the law. That's a reflection on the incompetence of these physicians.
So
any healthcare provider will tell you the same thing.
So just to be clear, ProPublica reports that according to Georgia's Maternal Mortality Review Committee, they said that the hospital's delay in providing the D&C due to state law had a, quote, had a large impact on her fatal outcome.
Yes, and I can agree that the physicians and the healthcare workers, they can use that as an excuse, but at the end of the day, that is all it is an excuse. The law, if they would have given care to that woman at the time that she needed it, would have protected them. But they were ignorant to that, and that is why that woman passed.
So so is your main point that you just think that Kamala is lying about this specific instance? Is that
I'm bringing this attention just for an example. I can talk about some other positions if you'd like. I think that Donald Trump did that was actually good. For example,
we can get to that. Yeah, you got to breathe. We can get to that, but first, let's close the loop on this. I don't think the point that you're making is as profound as you think it is. The fact of the matter is that the law and its enforcement played a decisive role.
Daft noise. Thanks so much, buddy.
Doctors have to interpret the law, Felix. Everybody interprets the law. If the law has such a chilling effect on physicians, it's a law. That's the point. And this law, if I remember correctly, was a trigger law that went into effect because Donald Trump's Supreme Court justices overturned Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs decision.
Well, maybe we can get some clarity. Maybe we can get some clarity from Felix. Like, Felix, do you support the 6-week ban in Georgia and other states?
Me personally, I've always been pro-choice. But at the same time, I can understand why in states that one of the things that I agree with is Trump actually deregulating it and giving control back to the states. Because if you support the Constitution, well, then you have to support people's right to practice religion in whatever way they see fit. And if in these states in particular, you're looking at Republicans that potentially might not be in favor of abortion as a collective, and in these states, then they should have the right to decide whether or not they want to perform those procedures. So you're talking about healthcare providers. Some of them might not agree with abortion.
Even if it results in women waiting outside in a parking lot until they go into sepsis in order to receive treatment?
Hutch, no women are waiting outside in a parking lot going into sepsis.
They literally are. They literally are. That's happening all over the country.
But the reason you're being disingenuous with the reason that's happening. The reason that's happening has nothing to do with the law. It has everything to do with physicians not doing their job properly.
It wasn't happening before the law.
Felix, by definition, it is related to the law because this wasn't happening prior to the law going into effect.
But it is the job of physicians to make sure they're aware of the laws and how they are applied. So you're absolving physicians of all their responsibilities, while at the same time.
No, not at all. We're saying that laws have to be interpreted, number one. Number two,
yes, they do.
The fact that this is a problem that is happening after the law went into effect, by definition, means you are wrong. It is related to the law. Now, if you want to say, listen, it's more complicated than just blaming the law, but I can recognize that the law could have a potentially chilling effect on physicians across the country, and you wish Kamala had a more nuanced position like that, that's fair. But to say that the law has nothing to do with Amber Thurman and other instances like this is just categorically untrue. And it also, this is a legitimately foreseeable outcome. Abortion rights activists were making this case prior to the Dobbs decision that this will happen if these trigger laws go into effect, with punitive measures for physicians who perform abortions or anything that could be construed as an abortion procedure. It would have a chilling effect.
I can concede the point that you're making in that. I should be more clear in what exactly I'm arguing. I am arguing that the way that Kamala Harris has been presenting it has been disingenuous. It's something that personally does upset me a little bit more, because the things that she is saying.
May I ask how you would prefer her to say it? Like, not to put you on the spot.
I would prefer her to be direct and specific in what exactly is leading to some of these, potential harmful outcomes when it comes to these women that are seeking this treatment. In the way that she's been promoting it.
No, I understand, but could you give an example? Like, because Felix, she's not going to absolve Trump of this, and she's not going to pretend that there's not a direct relationship between what happened to Amber Thurman and the Dobbs decision. So if that's what you expect, that's never going to happen.
I don't think that the blame with that necessarily lies with Trump at all. I don't really see how he comes into play.
Well, of course it does.
At all with this, because he allowed the states to sign or to regulate their own abortion policies. He appointed 3 pro-life Supreme Court justices who joined in the opinion to overturn Roe v. Wade, which immediately led to a lot of these trigger laws going into effect that were effective, bans all across the country, which directly led to women literally waiting until they miscarry in a parking lot.
But
the constituents in these states elect the representatives that have decided what laws to implement in these cases.
If Donald Trump had not won in 2016 and Hillary Clinton had won instead, would this have happened?
I don't understand what that has to do with allowing the states and the people in those states.
You're saying that it's not Donald Trump's fault, and I'm asking you, would it have happened if he lost in 2016?
No, of course not. And so, Leah, let's skip to the end. Let me ask you another question kind of related to this, because
because Felix said that this is all on the abortion thing. I mean, Felix, I don't think you have a good point on this one, but Felix did say that there were some positively good things that Trump did.
Can I ask him just one last question then on the abortion thing? So you say that you're not sure if Trump can be blamed for it, and that people elected representatives in Georgia, and Georgia representatives who were elected passed the life law, I think it's called. So here's my question. Let's say that Georgia allows a referendum on abortion where people can directly vote. Do you think this law stands?
If Georgia passes a referendum where people can directly vote, I would have to see. It depends on exactly who shows up to vote. Now, statistically, when it comes to these types of things, women are going to be more likely to vote. So, depending on whether or not they lean more conservative, I really couldn't say either way.
I can tell you. Well, hang on. I'll answer your question, but first I'm going to go ahead and again. More conservative states than Georgia.
Thank you for the generous
overturned
donated
these
subs.
Really restrictive abortion. Kansas, Kentucky, both of which are redder than Georgia.
Ohio
categorically rejected laws like the life law in Georgia. So with respect, I don't think you're being honest. We both know that if this comes down to people directly weighing in on abortion in Georgia, this law is done in
Crocs, I don't believe so now.
Minutes. So whatever your position.
That is your opinion. That is not a fact.
There's far more evidence benefiting my position than yours on this.
But the evidence supports that these people are electing constituents that are regulating and passing these laws that support their positions. If the people in Georgia did not want...
Jesus Christ, Felix, listen to what you're saying. Okay, think about this for a second. We just gave you a list of examples of red states, redder states than Georgia. Are they electing people who want restrictive abortion laws? Did Ohio elect people? Did the citizens of Ohio, the constituents of Ohio, and Kentucky and Kansas elect representatives who want restrictive abortion laws?
If your point is to get me to agree to some hypothetical that doesn't necessarily...
No, that's fine. Because we can mute you if you don't want to answer the question. The answer is this. Your logic also applies to the same states where by ballot referenda, these laws were overturned. Your argument sucks. They also elected representatives who want restrictive abortion laws. But when the constituents had the opportunity to overturn it directly, they did. It turns out that people can elect representatives for 2 or 3 different reasons and then categorically disagree with them on something like abortion. So your insinuation that it could, there's no way that Georgia constituents wouldn't overturn the life law if they could.
Mr. John Sherry, thank you so much for the primer.
They elected the very people who created the law in the first place. By that logic, Ohio, Kansas, and Kentucky would have had very different outcomes. You're just dead wrong.
You're misrepresenting what I'm saying. What I'm saying is not that there's no way that the people in Georgia would overturn that. What I'm saying is I cannot speak to whether or not they would, because I don't know exactly what the state of Georgia's position is when it comes to abortion on individual levels. I have no idea. I haven't looked into that.
Smart guy. You sound like a very smart guy. Use
Prodigy with 5 gifted.
If Ohio, Kansas, and
Appreciate it, buddy. I love you.
Same thing. If they elected people who wanted to pass restrictive abortion laws, but then the moment they had an opportunity to overturn those goddamn laws themselves, they did.
It is certainly a possibility, but I'm not going to make a definitive statement because you guys are also the people who can make definitive points on positions that you might not necessarily be correct about. Well, like this position, when I'm talking about Kamala Harris and her, a quick question. Do you all agree that the way that Kamala has been presenting the abortion issue is disingenuous and could lead to more young women being harmed?
No, absolutely not.
How would it?
Why not? Why not? If she's saying you can't get care when you can get care, and women are believing this, then they don't seek treatment. You don't think that that's going to lead to them being harmed?
Felix, there's a difference between your actual ability to access care and what we might theoretically think is the optimal application of law. Again, this was a case that was brought all the way to the Supreme Court, right? The application of the law, it says, hey, in Idaho, exceptions for the life of the mother with regards to an ability to access an abortion. The literal issue in that case was, what does that really mean, right? Because are we literally talking about you are literally on death's door? You will die in the next 10 seconds if you don't get an abortion?
That is not how medical procedure works.
Okay, Felix, all I'm telling you is that lawyers took this exact argument and multiple courts agreed that this is an issue that is very unclear. So if the Supreme Court is opining on this issue, I'm not sure your average doctor in Idaho has as sophisticated a legal understanding. So it's just clear to me.
But these doctors...
Felix, really quick, Hutch, it's just obvious and clear that there is a wide range of how we might interpret this law, and that in that transitionary period, because for 2 generations, we have not had an ability of states to ban abortion like they've been able to in the last couple of years because of the Trump court. But because of that, in this transition, there is clearly a problem with access to care.
Okay, so let's say I concede your point that doctors might be a little less misinformed or a little less informed, and that they don't necessarily understand the legalities.
Did Felix cut out for anyone else?
Yeah, I mean, I think just before he even it's not like these doctors are just like guessing. These doctors and these hospitals have their own counsel that advises them on the law. So I'm sure that it's the case that in every single one of these hospitals, their lawyers are telling them, I don't know if you can perform this abortion without being held accountable for a felony. Which, you know, if you get, then you're barred from practicing.
That is an assumption on your part. You don't know that.
It's not an assumption. Wait, hold on.
Felix, it is not an assumption. There is very clear empirical cases across the entire country of doctors and hospitals and healthcare providers saying the ambiguity of these laws, the lack of empirics of application of these laws, because again, 2 generations since we've had bans like this in effect, we don't know how to provide or when we can provide this care, and it's leading to this transition costs of women not being able to get the care that they need in the time in which
the law is very clear in when and where women are entitled to this care.
It's not.
Now, my question to you would be, to all of you would be, could you even agree that women can get a DNC in all the states right now currently? Can you even agree on that?
I don't agree with that because, again, according to this ProPublica post, and according to, it was like there was a whole panel of pregnant women mortality or whatever. They directly cited the law and the ambiguity of the law.
You cannot receive a DNC in aid with an abortion. You can receive a DNC in order to save somebody's life Post-abortion, after the fetus is dead or passed.
To answer your question, as far as I'm aware, there is no state in the country in which a DNC is outlawed in all instances. That under some circumstances, you can, of course, get a DNC, including in Georgia. Hutch's point is because of the ambiguity of the law and its chilling effects, it led to a perfectly preventable death.
Okay, so can I get Hutch then to agree with that statement that you just made?
With what statement?
That a DNC is, in fact, available to all women in all 50 states post-abortion in life-saving treatment.
I never claimed that this particular procedure is banned outright. In this case, they were unclear about whether or not it conformed with the law. They directly cite this law as the reason why they were hesitant to provide this care.
Right, but we just had the law explained to us, right? So we know now that it is available for women. So that would be a case of negligence.
Maybe you need a career change. Maybe you should be a lawyer and like become a lawyer for these doctors, because you seem to understand the law so much better than these doctors and their lawyers, right?
Well, I'm not the one that just agreed that a DNC is available. It was the gentleman that was on the call prior.
Right, but you seem to be making the claim that the laws are not unclear and that that they could have given this procedure without worry. So why don't you become a lawyer and advise these doctors, because you seem to understand the law better than they do?
All right, if that's your opinion, sure.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned that you think this is so clear cut, and that the doctors are just so negligent that I guess they're just like casually letting people die.
I'm not saying that doctors are casually letting people die. What I'm saying is that in this instance, the doctor failed to do what he was performing. You said they were negligent. That is negligence. That is the term for what happened in that case. It is negligence.
So you think that the woman was just like waiting around, and the hospital just like they were dragging their feet on this procedure, or they weren't monitoring her?
No, they sent this woman home. They sent this woman home, Hutch. She wasn't waiting around in the hospital. She was sent home.
Why did they not perform the procedure if it was so clear cut?
Why did the doctors not perform the procedure?
Negligence. Yes. He's saying negligence, right?
They were being negligent. That's what it is.
All right, we got three more requests to speak here.
The reason that they gave is because the law.
Talking to you, Felix. We do have other callers. You've been in for a little while.
Yeah, if you want to hang on and come back later, because you said you had other things you wanted to make a case for Trump in other areas, and I know Hutch was interested in that, and so was I. But yeah, we need to move on. But if you want to hang out, we can get you back in rotation.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. Sorry about the passion involved there. It's just good to get some conversations going about these things.
It's all good.
Appreciate
it.
Thank you.